I'll start again. I need that off. Good evening and welcome to this Township of West Lincoln Council meeting. This is meeting number 17 and it is Monday, December the 15th. I'm going to ask those who are able to stand, please, for the Singing of Canada. Tonight it's Gainsborough Public School. Thank you. You can tell almost the age of the children by the missing front teeth or the big front teeth and the missing side teeth. So always wonderful to hear children sing. So prior to commencing this council meeting, I want to provide the following announcements. The public may, as always, submit comments for matters that are on the agenda to jpaylove@westlincoln.ca before 4:30 on the day of the meeting. Comments submitted will be considered as public information and read into the public record. This meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded and will be available on the Township's website. And we'll begin, as always, with the land acknowledgement statement. The Township of West Lincoln, being part of Niagara Region, is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Hattaway-Wendoronk, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The Township of West Lincoln, as part of the regional municipality of Niagara, stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. And Councillor Riley, you have the opening petition this evening.
I do, Madam Mayor. We meet to serve our community, to use our resources wisely and well, to represent all members of our community fairly, to make decisions that promote the common good. We recognize our responsibility to the past and the future, and the rights and needs of both individuals and community. As trusted servants, may we act wisely and well.
Thank you, Councillor. So, members of council, are there any change in order of items on the agenda this evening? And seeing none, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest? Okay. And again, seeing none, we'll move on. So, item number 6 on our agenda is, as always, requests to address items on the agenda. And they're restricted to specific items as follows: Section 6.7 of the procedural bylaw. And under 6.7, it says there shall be no comments from the public permitted at council unless A, a specific appointment has been scheduled, or B, an item is included under the other business, communications, or appointments sections of the agenda and relates to a matter which would normally be dealt with at committee. So are there any members of the public present who wish to address a specific item on the agenda as permitted under section 6.7? And I don't see anyone. And Kevin, is there anyone online this evening?
Not seeing any, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, there are no appointments or presentations this evening, and that takes us to Regional Councillor Widavine's remarks this evening.
There we go. We're live. So good evening, Mayor, members of council, staff, and members of the public. So we'll just like to start this evening with a couple quick updates from the Niagara Region's public health meetings. First, we were informed that of the Niagara Region's community substance use strategy. The current state is that we have a high number of drinkers as to the provincial average, substance use being cannabis related to emergency visits also exceed the provincial average. So this strategy recommends a 5-step approach, such as to build resilience in children, youth, and families, promote harm reduction principles broadly, and reduce stigma, strengthen partnerships across all sectors, improve access to treatment and services, and lastly, to support safer communities. So the next steps are to create an action table, an evaluation plan, and have continued community engagement to measure outcomes. So we were also updated on the fall vaccine programs, which were out of the fall almost into the winter for influenza, COVID, RSV immunization rollout, which is being done as I speak. Additional vaccine programs will be available this spring for those of high risk of infection. And at the December public health meeting, the winter homelessness plan was being implemented for the upcoming winter season, making sure there was enough shelter beds available for those that choose to shelter indoors as the temperature drops. This program has existed every season, and demand is monitored to make sure everyone is cared for in their respected communities. And I had the opportunity at the end of November to join the mayor and other community partners to be involved in that grand opening of the West Niagara, or West Lincoln, better say that right, West Lincoln Memorial Hospital. This was much anticipated, as myself involved in the early 2000s, sitting here as council setting aside funds towards this new build. Also thank this council for its support for making this dream come true. Our community will benefit from this investment for many generations. So on the conservation front, many of you will be aware of the changes being made by the province to consolidate the province's 36 CAs into 7 regional bodies overseen by a new agency. As a board member of the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority, we were hesitant in this change, not knowing of the details and how this new structure will affect grassroots participation in the management of our watershed. We are busy putting together a position and a list of concerns within the submission period, which was, I'm just going to make an addition here verbally that on Thursday we did, I guess, recommend a position put forward by the conservation that was being submitted to the province our past Thursday with the mayor and I at our council meeting. So we have made a submission locally. So that deadline for submission is December 22nd, and the theme was from our CAs not to change but to invest in modernization, support local capacity, and ensure sustainable funding. And I'll keep council informed as this process takes place and what the implications are for the municipality. And some of the challenges are, just to let councillors know that so the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority has purchased lands that they're managing, and there's also a foundation, and we're a very lean conservation authority, so our concerns are that others are not operating at the same level as we are, and that's our position, that we already are meeting the province's concerns of not being a responsive CA. So we'll see what the province comes up with. They've chosen a director, and I guess I always say the devil's in the details of how this is going to roll out. But I think it's important that we watch this because we have a lot of land base in the watershed, and what that may mean to our residents. So, And lastly, I'd just like to wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and look forward to 2026, working together with the council and at the Niagara region. So, thank you.
Thank you, Regional Councillor. Are there any questions or comments regarding the remarks that you've heard? Okay, seeing none, thank you. That takes us to number 9, which is confirmation of minutes. The council minutes from November 24th with confidential minutes under separate cover. Councillor Maychak, you have the resolution, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the minutes relating to the November 24th, 2025 council meeting and the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and 2, that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the November 24th, 2025 council meeting be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with exemption provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Thank you. And someone to second those minutes, please? Councillor Bradrick? All right. Are there any questions or comments regarding the open session portion of those minutes? Councillor Chichok?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And since you've given me the opportunity, I guess on that night, we saw the staff reports and the committee reports with regard to, all of the staff reports with regard to, building fees, et cetera. And I won't rehash what's there, what we've talked about before, but I do think that it would be useful if we looked at, or had staff look at, how all of our rate reports could come sooner than the end of the year, the last meeting. And in past years, we have had it in October or November, but we've seemed to have eased our way away from that, and that gives not us as council or the public a chance to see, review, and deal with those, whether they're building permit fees or planning fees, or even the recreation, the book that we do tonight. So, and it would be great if we could give that notice and give people a chance to see it. A public meeting happen one night, and then it go to a council meeting before we're into all committees. And that's something I'd like to think that staff could take under advisement and bring forward for next year. I know it would probably be a new council, but it's something that the advice might be useful for.
Thank you. Do you want that to be a particular direction, or do you think that the CAO has heard?
He's been nodding his head, although I haven't looked at him through my peripheral vision. I could see him nodding, and I did speak with a couple of the directors, because they too understand and have heard from people where it just didn't seem that we had the time to react or have discussion, whether it's a recreation committee or the minor hockey that might have been able to help us with fees or something like that. We need to have that time to have the discussion before we put these into play. So I think I'm looking at, I think the staff have heard it. If they want a motion, we could do that, but I do believe they will. I see a shaking head. So.
I am only surmising, and this is not factual, but this whole fall, and actually spring and into summer planning, was very much disrupted by the IPM. And when I think about the change in our workload and the number of hours that staff put into that, I can only think that perhaps that one-off has thrown things out of whack. Maybe it's been out of whack longer, but I just noticed this year everything has been a real rush through the fall.
I don't think it was just staff. I think there were a lot of members of council who were very committed
Lots
and
of
overworked.
Involved, yeah.
So I think that if there was any kind of opportunity for a time to be made up, we need to look at it, because council needed time to review, staff needed time to put it together, and I think everybody was very happy with what we brought to West Lincoln this year, but that shouldn't be the issues for the future years.
Well, I don't think we'll be doing that anytime soon
Not
again,
my
but or mine. Anyway, thank you for that. Anything further about those minutes? Okay, seeing nothing further, then Mr. Clerk, please. It is trying. Okay. Did it come for everybody?
It did.
Good. It seemed to take a wee bit longer, but it's there. Thank you. Maybe so. Okay, and so that resolution carries. So 9.2 are the all-committee meeting, including the public meetings, the minutes of December 8th, and again, confidential minutes under separate cover. And Councillor Chichok, you have that resolution.
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. Moved by myself that minutes relating to the December 8th, 2025, all committees, including public meetings, and and meeting, and that the recommendations contained therein be accepted, and that the confidential minutes relating to the closed session portion of the December 8th, 2025, all committees, including public meetings, be accepted, and that the minutes remain confidential, and restricted from public disclosure in accordance with the exemptions provided in Section 239 of the Municipal Act.
Okay, thank you. And someone to second those minutes, please? Councilor Rayner? Okay, any questions or comments about the open session? Okay, seeing none. Okay, and that also carries. 9.3 is a public meeting under the Planning Act, and Councillor Trombetta, you have that resolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the minutes relating to the December 8th, 2025 public meeting be accepted.
Thank you. And someone to second that, please? Councillor Bradrick? Any questions or comments about those? Okay, Mr. Clerk? And that also carries. Number 10 is communications, and for your information, there is a report from our Director of Corporate Services / CFO, Caitlin Repov's memo 2026 interim tax bylaw. So you had it in front of you. I didn't know, Director, if you want to speak to that briefly, please.
Thank you. Through Madam Chair. So Council is presented with Bylaw 2025-71, which will allow administration to issue interim property tax bills for 2026 before the final 2026 tax levy is approved. So these interim tax bills will be based on 50% of the total municipal and school taxes levied in 2025, with adjustments made for any properties that experience mid-year assessment changes. So for most properties, this means that their interim tax bill will be equal to half of their 2025 final tax bill. And I'd just like to point out that the billing of 50% of last year's taxes is the maximum amount that a municipality can bill for under the Municipal Act, and what we can charge for an interim tax levy. So once this is approved by Council, administration can proceed in generating the interim tax bills, which will be sent out towards the end of January 2026.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for the Director about that? I think that's very normal practice. We've been doing that for a good many years. Okay. So that takes us, and we don't need anything about that since it's information only, so that takes us to the Mayor's remarks for this evening. And you'll be happy that they're a little shorter too, because it's been a shorter time frame. So it's only been 3 weeks since the November 24th council meeting, but it's been quite busy as things have either ramped up to completion before the end of the year or have been carried out as an end-of-year activity. We held 2 different flag-raising events, the first to bring awareness against gender-based violence, that being Jillian's Place Wrapped in Courage flag. And additionally, we held the Positive Living Niagara flag and Red Scarf event to raise awareness in our community of the need for continued support. The Christmas season was kicked off with our Kiwanis-led tree lighting, West Lincoln Shines, on a cold, blustery, wet night that chilled us all to the bone, but certainly warmed the hearts of those who were willing to brave the elements. The Township is a solid, dependable partner in this event, as are Smithville Christian High School, the former Knights of Columbus members, Summer Heinen from Royal LePage, Rebecca Mullen from Desjardins Assurance, Foodland, and Stampak. Thanks to all who were involved in this event. Both the barbecued hot dogs and the gallons of hot chocolate were enjoyed by all in attendance. Our parade, on the other hand, had a wonderful weather, cold and crisp, but dry for walking participants and not too windy for the beautiful floats. Thanks to Councillors Bradrick, Chichok, Maychak, Trombetta, and Riley for joining me in walking in this year's parade. Thanks also to the Mayak youth who came out to help with the parade. The Township was busy with holiday dinners these past 2 weeks, with the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee enjoying their Christmas dinner at Lackey's on December 3rd, the various volunteers of Township committees again at Lackey's on the 10th, and the staff and council dinner at the Legion this past Friday evening. The Township's Wellness Committee took on the organization of these latter 2 dinners, including the invitations, menus, coordination with the venue staff, decorating and entertainment, etc. They did an amazing job and certainly deserve our thanks for the work that was put into the success of these dinners. It was great to see that our entire council was present at the staff council dinner for 2025. Representing West Lincoln, Director of Growth and Sustainability, Garrett Borman and his wife Nicole, joined John and I as we attended the Niagara Area Realtors Association Christmas Dinner and Elimination Draw event that this year supported Big Brothers and Big Sisters with donations of gifts and money to support their efforts. West Lincoln Sparkles, our campaign to both light up and brighten up our municipality, has officially now closed the competition portion of that event. However, there are so many beautifully decorated homes throughout our municipality that all add to the festive spirit. It's such a joy to drive throughout all areas of West Lincoln to see the creativity being demonstrated by so many residents. Well done, West Lincoln. Thanks to communications specialist Beth Ledette for organizing and publicizing this yearly event. John and I also attended the Kerr United Church Carol Sing and Social this past Saturday evening. It's always wonderful to be able to hear someone play that old organ so beautifully, as not many are able to do so these days. It was a lovely, light-hearted gathering of residents from each of the areas of West Lincoln, followed by delicious warm apple cider and Christmas goodies. Special thanks to Ward 1 residents Anita Merritt, Wendy Veldman, Marilyn Stewart, Sherry Marshall, assisted by Deacon Stephen LaSalle, for their continued dedicated efforts to keep the old yet beautiful Kerr United Church as vibrant and relevant as possible. The mornings of December 1st and December 2nd saw all staff in Emergency Operations Center training sessions. Prior to these in-person sessions, each staff member involved in the various roles was obligated to do a 2-hour online training module and test in preparation for the presentations led by Kathy McGrath, our Shared Emergency Management Coordinator. Hopefully, it won't ever be necessary to use this training, but it is of great comfort to know that everyone has been properly trained if ever it's needed in West Lincoln. And today, at the invitation of local farm operators Kathy and Bill Vitucci, I attended the Niagara Peninsula Crop and Soil Improvement Association seminar and their AGM held from 9:30 to 3:30 at the Ancaster Fairgrounds. Councillor Witteveen was also in attendance, as were many local farmers and owners representatives of local agriculturally related businesses. And that was the end of what I had written, but I do want to actually just go back to an email that came in over the weekend. And it says, "Dear Sir or Madam, I want to congratulate the Township of West Lincoln on being officially recognized as an age-friendly community by the Ontario government. It's my pleasure to invite you to the Ontario Age-Friendly Community Recognition Ceremony on the evening of January 18th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. at the Sheraton Centre Toronto Hotel. This ceremony will coincide with the 2026 Rural Ontario Municipalities Association Conference. Please note that the registration for the Roma Conference is not required to attend this recognition ceremony." And then it goes on to talk about the ceremony will provide an opportunity to celebrate the achievements of many communities, recognizing their contributions toward making Ontario more accessible and inclusive for people of all ages and abilities. And it goes on to describe age-friendly communities, but I want to say that this is from Minister Raymond Cho, who actually attended our age-friendly event and was extremely impressed with how accessible our community center is, how vibrant it was in the gym, how many organizations and groups that we had, how well they supported the residents in terms of their needs and had materials and people ready to talk to them. So I think this came about because he actually visited himself and saw for himself that we're certainly supporting the older adults in our community. So I wanted you all to know that. I know some of you will be at Roma and hopefully we'll go as a group that night. I don't imagine it will be very long, but it will be nice to see that West Lincoln is recognized in that way. So that's that. And that's the end of my remarks. But that was just sort of a good news piece that I wanted to add on. So taking us to staff reports then. So Corporate Services Committee is Director of Legal and Legislative Services, Jessica Dyson. Recommendation Report LLS-15-2025, Administration of Policies and Procedures. And Councillor Bradrick, over to you, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself, one, that recommendation report LLS-15-2025, titled Administration of Policies and Procedures, dated December 15, 2025, be received, and two, that the Administration of Policies and Procedures policy attached as Schedule A to this report be approved, and three, that administration be authorized to implement the policy across all departments and maintain the centralized registry to ensure ongoing consistency, compliance, and effective governance within the township.
Thank you. And I need a seconder for that resolution. Councillor Riley? All right. Director, would you like to give an overview first, please?
Thank you, Mayor Ganan, and through you to the rest of council. So today's report brings forward a proposed policy for the administration of policies and procedures for council's consideration and approval. The purpose of this policy is to strengthen how the township creates and administers and reviews all corporate policies and procedures in a more consistent and accountable way. Over time, the township has developed many policies and procedures across departments, and while each was created appropriately, they were developed using different formats, different approval processes for non-corporate policies, and different, or in some cases, no regular review cycle. Through this policy review, administration recognized that a more structured and corporate approach was needed. Administration is recommending approval to ensure that township has clear, consistent, and accountable framework for policy creation, administration, and record keeping. That is the gist of the report being presented in front of you. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Rayner?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to the CAO. I know this would not have come through unless you reviewed it and signed it, so you're comfortable that all the things in the past that did not make it work as smooth as you would have liked it has been corrected?
CEO?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. This, the short answer is yes. The long answer, though, is it will take time, as this policy will eventually align all the other policies up and organize them. We are doing this, we're going to be going back and sorting through them as they come up for review. So over time, the next 5 years, 6 years, we will get all of the policies in that organized and aligned with the policy on procedure here. So this essentially gives you the framework for a well-managed policy system, and we'll get there, but we have to go through a few years because there are a lot of policies on the books and they need to be tweaked in some ways. So they will be coming forward to council as they get teed up by departments.
Through you, Madam Mayor, through to the Director. I thought you mentioned that this corrects all the problems of the past, but the CAO says this is the format to correct them in the future. Like one's in the present form and one's in the past form. Through the CAO or the direct, whichever one, like.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. That was admittedly a clunky answer that I provided. So the
What answer?
a clunky answer.
That's my term in my age group.
6 cents.
It was a groovy answer. No, it wasn't.
No, clunky was better. Go ahead.
So this policy organizes all of the other policies and gives direction to administration on what policy should look like going forward. Right now, there are a number of policies and procedures that council has adopted over the years. Going forward, this policy says that all of those policies will fall underneath regular review, and as they come underneath regular review, they will then be updated to align with the format that's presented to you in this policy. So we're not able to review and revise all the policies at once. That would be an overwhelming undertaking. This gives us the framework and the platform to align them going forward as they come up for review.
So, Madam Mayor, to the CAO, so it's not clunky that we should use, it's the template that we should use for the future? Is that a better word?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay.
You're satisfied now, Councillor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Clunky doesn't help most people in the public, but template, I'm sure most people know what that means.
And I think format too. The format moving forward was
Format
part
is
of the
template.
original less than clunky descriptor. So anyway, Councillor Maychak.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the CAO, is the long-range goal to have everything in one policy and procedure manual so that if a new staff person comes in or someone's not familiar, there's like a go-to guide that provides them with detail when they need it?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor, that is the intent. Ms. Dyson's department will be the stewards of those policies. Ownership of the policies will continue to exist with the operating line and other departments, but legal legislative services will be the keeper of them and the organizer of them.
Councillor Bradford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to the director. Reviewing the report, I wasn't sure if there was the opportunity to address any kind of digital onboarding for new staff. Is that something that can be put into this as a possibility, or is that something that perhaps would be aside?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Councillor Bradrick. I'm sorry, are you meaning a separate policy for the
No,
onboard?
I'm sorry. I meant these policies being perhaps utilized in a digital capacity for staff onboarding.
Yes, absolutely. All of our policies moving forward would automatically be digitalized, so we would be able to provide them with that digital copy for sure.
Very good. And then just another comment. I think when the CAO was making his comments and clarifying Councillor Rayner's question, I think he's somewhat committed to at least being here for 5 or 6 years. Did you hear that, Madam Mayor?
I'm quite certain that that timeframe was in there.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Not non-verbalized, but implied. Yeah, I would say implied. In any case, I think, I have had to go looking for policies about various things, and in fact have pulled out some of the old ones when I finally find the right ones and have them now in a book that I've been trying to keep. Even at the time, just as an example, when we were looking at doing the CEO, CA, well, we were trying to do an evaluation. We couldn't find CAO, we couldn't find CEO, we couldn't find anything. And then we found 4 copies, undated, and we didn't know which came first. So that's just recently, and that's only one example of sort of going down the rabbit hole trying to find. And we also know, because we've seen them in front of us, policies that had not been revised since the early 2000s, and we were sort of looking at facing some of those. So all in all, I think this is a really good step forward. So I think that's enough. Oh, go ahead.
Just a quick comment. I think that due to the capacity of staff in the past, there wasn't the ability to streamline this. So certainly any of these comments that we make about past policies has nothing to do with any of the diligent staff that have worked in the past on
Thank you for that comment, absolutely. And the other thing is, we have had historically most people in our workforce wearing multiple hats and doing jobs for short periods of time or long periods of time, but we're doing multiple jobs at the same time, and we didn't have the capability. So there are lots of reasons, and you're absolutely right. Thank you for pointing that out. No fault of past staff, just simply a situation that we've dealt with as a small municipality. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Clerk. I think don't see anything else. So. And that carries. So number 2, under corporate services, is Manager Finance / Deputy Treasurer Steve Emsley and Director Corporate Services / CFO Caitlin Repaz. Reinformation Report T-21-2025, Treasurer's Annual Statement for 2024 Development Charges. And Councillor Rayner, you have that, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the information report T-21-2025 dated December 15th, 2025, regarding Treasurer's Annual Statement for 2024 Development Charges be received, and that this report and the accompanying schedules be made available to the public on the Township of West Lincoln's website.
Thank you. And someone to second that, please. Councillor Riley. Okay. Any questions or comments about that report? Councillor Chichot.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple. Through you to our Director of Finance. I see that we have a very large negative balance in fire starting off. And if I remember rightly, and I don't remember exactly how much, but there's about a $350,000 truck that's coming into our capital program in one of the next couple of few years. And I could be wrong, but I'm thinking when the account is getting close to $1 million into the negative, are we thinking of debenturing or doing something to provide the funding, or are we going to use our own monies, which is allowed under the Development Charges Act, to borrow from ourselves. What exactly will we do to mitigate this?
Director?
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Chichok. So I'll address a few of your questions there. So just regarding specifically the Fire DC Reserve Fund.
Sure, yep.
So as of December 31st, 2024, the Fire Reserve Fund is in a negative balance, but it has been overdrawn, and that amount is $563,835. Under the Township's 10-year capital plan, and I'm referring to the 2026 proposed 10-year capital plan, the DC reserve specific to fire shows over the 10-year horizon a total withdrawal in 2027 of $195,000. There's no other capital projects in that 10-year plan that has funding through the Fire DC Reserve at this current point in time.
Don't tell anybody.
And just overall, as of December 31st, 2024, looking at all of the Township's DC Reserve funds, the closing balance is $2,666,805. So in Schedule A, it shows you the reserve fund amounts, and some balances are in positive and some are overdrawn or they're negative. The most important thing is that the Township has DC reserve funds that are in an overall positive position. We are allowed under the DC Act to borrow between reserve funds. So if one's overdrawn, we can do internal borrowing between the other reserve funds in order to fund. So that is what we are doing for those that are overdrawn. We are essentially drawing from other reserve funds in order to pay for things within our 10-year capital plan. And we do see in the the proposed 10-year plan that there, outside of fire, there is a large need to finance growth-related projects through DCs. And administration is forecasting that we will need debenture financing or to enter into fund ending agreements in order to pay for those, given the costs of growth-related infrastructure.
Thank you.
Does that
So,
answer?
Madam Mayor, it didn't, yes, I know the fact that we can borrow from between funds. It was just that fire is not the only one in a negative. I know we are still in a positive position, but I guess my next question would have been, what exactly is the fire component of our DC, roughly? Don't need the exact amount. Just wanted to know how many houses before we would be able to say that we were coming close to a place, because I'm sorry, I must have looked at the gross number for that truck, but the DC component is 190. So I just wondered what the DC component right now for fire is, to understand how much growth it would take to bring us closer to zero, because we do have water and water services, wastewater and water services that are also struggling or creeping along.
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Chichok, so you're looking for just what the current DC amount is that we're collecting related to fire
For a single-family home.
For a single-family home.
Sure.
So in 2025, so effective January 1st, for a single-family home, we are collecting $2,314 for fire services for a single-family home.
Okay, per unit. Thank you very much.
unit.
And
Thank
my
you.
second question, if I might, and I'm not trying to be, if you don't know the answer, please don't feel put on the spot. You can get me this. It's just that this is 2024, and multi-use recreation facility, pardon me, has $379,000 worth of donations. Are we still collecting donations from the original capital campaign, or is that some other number? If you'll notice, pardon me, on Schedule C.
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Chichok, so regarding the collection of the campaign monies, I believe we are nearly fully up to date in terms of the obligations of those. Just regarding Schedule C, is it the multi-use recreational facility debt repayment? Was there a
That was it,
question?
the debt repayment, it was $379 from donations. I would have thought that all of the
Yeah.
capital donations would have been made in the first 5 years, given that we had, what, 4 or 5 years to pay them. Pardon me.
Yeah.
If you don't know, it was just something that popped out at me.
I would just have to double check the exact source, but I believe it's related to the capital funding through the campaign and the amounts collected in 2024.
Wow.
The remaining amounts, yes.
I hope they're all done now. But anyway, thank you very much.
Finish, Counselor?
I
You- Okay. Anyone else with questions? Okay. Seeing nothing further? Okay, heavy night for you. Back to you, number 3, Manager, Finance, Deputy Treasurer Steve Emsley, and Director of Corporate Services / CFO Caitlin Repops. Recommendation Report T-20-2025, Consolidated User Fees and Charges Bylaw, and 2026 User Fees and Charges, it says again. So both the bylaw and the fact that the charges are there, and Councillor Riley, you have that, please.
I do, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself that the recommendation report T-20-2025 titled Consolidated User Fees and Charges Bylaw and 2026 User Fees and Charges dated December 15th, 2025 be received. And that Schedule A attached to this report outlining the consolidated schedule of fees and charges be approved with an effective date of January 1st, 2026, unless otherwise indicated. And that Schedule B outlining the consolidated user fees and charges bylaw 2025-72 be approved with an effective date of January 1st, 2026.
Thank you. So someone to second that resolution, please. Councillor Broderick. Okay, questions or comments about this report?
Madam Mayor. Only to reiterate that I know staff have heard us. So this is the report I was respectfully referring to when I said that this one might be able to be backed up, so as to give people more of a chance to understand what they're going in for, especially since some of them are being posted for 2 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing nothing further? The vote's in front of you. And that also carries. Okay, so we have nothing to reconsider this evening, and we do not have any notices of motion to rescind anything, and that will take us to number 15, other business, and 15.1, Councillor Trombetta, re-update to Regional Waste Management Service for 2026.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't know if maybe, well, I can speak to you if Albert wants to also weigh in as well. He's here, so he can weigh in as well. So I know we did get some correspondence through council for this change in recycling that's starting January 1st. Residents have now started reaching out saying to me that they're concerned, especially the ones at our community at Fulton and our community hall at Abingdon. Some business owners in the country have reached out as well. They also own some property in town, wondering, now that the region is telling them they have to pay to get rid of their own recycling after we pay an abundance of taxes to the region, but I understand this was mandated by the province that was pushed on to the region services. They did reach out to the province and they've had little help, and so my concerns are, there's a couple of them. One, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. One, people that own a business, let's say they own a barbershop downstairs and they have 2 tenants upstairs, is the recycling no longer getting picked up? There are residents that rent, obviously from the owner, and there's a business downstairs. How are they going to distinguish whose recycling is whose? That's one question. Are we, as a municipality, because I know other municipalities, are we picking up the recycling at our community centers? You know, we have a lot of events at our community centers. Are public works trucks going out to pick up the recycling for those events? We have, there's Silverdale's, many more events at Silverdale. So, you know, these are the questions they're asking. What else did I have in here? You know, I don't understand, and my personal thing is, I don't understand why the province is mandating this. All people are going to do is throw the recycling in the garbage now. And
That's everyone's worry, Councillor.
Okay, and we're
So-
trying to make it better, but, less stuff in the landfills, and all people are going to do is just either burn it, especially in the country, or they're going to just throw it in the trash. And, there's a lot of unanswered questions. It's unfortunate that the region gave us memos from the province, well, province gave memos to the region just gave memos out to people where I, as a counselor, don't have answers for the people that are running, especially our Fulton community. I have two, Fulton and Abingdon. I don't have answers to give what they're doing with their recycling. So, we lost a lot of services out in the country, and this is another one that we lost. We've lost our garbage for every 2 weeks, and now some people are losing the recycling. What else is next? And it's just the concerns that I have, and I need some answers. And at least if I need a motion this evening that we can at least help the residents with our public works guys to go pick up at these community centers, I'd like to see something like that this evening, Madam
Well,
Mayor.
I'm going to go to the director because, as you know, this is a province-wide mandate. This is happening all over Ontario.
Correct.
Everyone has the same concerns that you do, that people will just put more in the garbage than they have been doing. We've been doing a great job in Niagara in particular in recycling, and it's a bit of a backward step. I think we all agree with that. Certainly most regional councillors did it all as well. So I'm going to go to Director DePaula, first of all, from his perspective, and then we can bring Councillor Whittabee up again.
Okay, so thank you through the mayor to Councillor Trombetta. I guess the first thing I should say is it was an Ontario blue box regulation that kind of made these changes to a recycling collection. Residential properties are not affected. It's basically non-eligible source properties, which is a combination of businesses like retail, office space, small businesses, or any kind of institution like places of worship, nonprofit centers, municipal buildings,
Yes, and I
and
forgot
facilities.
our churches as well, which is another
Yeah.
big one too. Sorry, thank you for reminding me there.
Arenas, libraries, or any other municipal facility. So yeah, effective January 2026, those non-eligible sources will not receive recycling pickup. That decision was made, that policy was pushed down from the province. The region looked at it, and they presented a report to their Public Works Committee back in November, just last month. And just due to the cost to carry on that service, the region did not approve the extra collection, because the way the legislation is written is residential pickup and non-eligible source pickup has to be done through different providers, right? Different routes, different trucks, because the whole legislation puts the onus on the producers to kind of pick up the recycling only in the residential areas. So the non-eligible sources are kind of gapped. Correspondence has gone out to the non-eligible sources from the region. The region did provide a list of different contractors that they could contact. So that's the one thing that we're going to be doing in the near future, is to reach out to these contractors to see what the fee would be to have our facilities picked up. And all the other non-eligible sources are kind of in the same situation.
So thank you through me, Madam Mayor, and I'll ask a few more things. I'll turn it over to my members of the council or committee here.
So I think the one thing that I want to put in too is AMO was actually questioning and pushing back against the government as well, as were all of the various municipalities everywhere, our region in particular, because of our high rate of recycling and the fact that we had been doing a better and better job over time in terms of recycling, better than a lot of the other municipalities, in fact. And but the circular materials would not budge on that at all. So it was not, the reason that we didn't know until November is it was not until late October when they gave a definitive answer that said absolutely not. This is what we're going to do. We're going to look after the residential, and the rest are left to sort of hang. So we've known it was coming for close to 2 years, I would think, in terms of the fact that that's what they were looking to do. I think at the beginning, January 1st, 2026 seemed like a long way off to people, and they just sort of lost track of it, and I think it seemed like a long way off to the provincial government when they said it, and just suddenly here it is, and they did not have any plans in place to accommodate what they were leaving behind. So
At the appropriate time, Madam Mayor, I'd like the motion being brought forward that we get staff to, with the help of the Director of Public Works, come back to us to see what community centers need the support that we can offer as a municipality. Something in that effect is what I'm looking for, because I think we should at least now, I can't control what business owners do, I don't know, but they're gonna need answers on when they have tenants upstairs.
And I've not heard that discussion. I've heard that question. I've not heard an answer to that. So I'm going to go to the director. Have you heard anything about, for example, downtown? We have some businesses underneath and tenants living on top.
Like, no one's
So
gonna
how
put,
will they know when they're picking up recycling downtown?
are they gonna
whether
be
it belongs
skipped?
to the
Like,
business or
what's,
the?
like, there's a
Yeah.
lot of properties like that we have, so. Even in the rural area, there's businesses.
There are some.
That are home businesses, are they not, their recycling not getting picked up anymore?
No.
We have,
If they're a recognized home business, and it was,
But what
that's
about-
one of the things that was being picked up in the past that is no longer being, the trucks are not allowed to pick that up.
so let's say.
If they know that.
The creek side that we have in my ward, that's
Mm-hmm.
no longer, even though there's houses on the property, that's no longer. Again, there's a lot of unanswered questions,
Yeah,
Madam Mayor,
well,
so
there
I
are.
think that
Well,
that we get as frontline politicians.
I
And we
understand
don't
that.
have the answers, and that's where I have to come in and find some answers, so.
So let me just go back to the director to see, have you heard anywhere from anyone else what they're doing when businesses are down? And I think about St. Catharines, for example,
Mm-hmm.
although I know that, some places have made some other arrangements, but
Yep.
there are lots of areas throughout Ontario where there's a business downstairs and a residential unit upstairs, or more than one residential unit.
Yeah, through the mayor, unfortunately, I don't know the answer to that right now. I'll have to check with the region and see what correspondence they provided us with respect to that. But I do know that they have reached out to the affected property owners, and I'm not sure if like a residential and business combination is considered one of those affected businesses. I'm not sure, but I could look into that and get back to you as soon as
And
possible.
does our churches know? We have a strong.
They would have
faith-based
received,
community.
correspondence from the region
They
on
should have
that.
received something, yeah.
Okay.
The region knew, they know where they've been picking up and they knew where they needed to reach out. But it, obviously that is a regional responsibility, not a lower tier municipality responsibility. I do know that, and perhaps some of the rest of you do too, that a one-year agreement was reached in Grimsby. Their council has decided to do that, but they've decided to do it for 1 year because they're also digging up their main street. They're having all their water and sewer lines done as Ontario Street was done previously. And they know that that is detrimental to businesses, so they were not layering this on top as well. So they have budgeted for that in their budget this year, to look after that for 1 year. I also know that Niagara-on-the-Lake and St. Catharines, Niagara Falls have just recently done that as well, but because of their tourism, that they both have looked after, one at the cost of 63,000, one at little less than that, but pretty close to that as well, just to make sure that they don't have a lot laying around with tourism coming into their area.
My concerns are like our businesses like Tyatt's, how they can distinguish that's the home or that's not the business, like all these kind of little questions I have, and those are my
I would think
concerns.
some of those questions might be the kind of thing that we don't want to talk about, because they very likely could just,
Well, we hope,
put it
Madam
out.
Mayor, but you don't know that they just drive by and see a business like Pyatt's and
They
then they don't
might,
get,
yeah.
and poor Mr. and Mrs. Pyatt who are elderly live in the
upstairs, yeah,
back.
I know.
Their
Oh, I-
garbage is, recycling is getting missed, right? So these are the kind of things that I have. I know the clerk's working on a motion, but also that we put in that motion that we reach out to, the people that are in charge of the call boards, that they are aware that, that are hopefully,
Well-
if it's supported by members of council this evening, that, Public Works will be picking up the garbage for our facilities at Fulton or at Abbey, not garbage, recycling on special events,
So we need to have staff investigate that, because.
Well,
we-
that's
we
what this
also need-
motion is looking for,
yeah,
Madam
We need
Mayor.
to know what the cost would be to the municipality.
Yeah,
Right,
so
so-
I'll get the clerk to read it out after. I'll turn it over to the members of committee,
Any
Madam
further
Mayor,
comments
because I'm
about
quite
that?
sure they've got
Councillor
some
Riley.
questions.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. Maybe you can answer this, or maybe someone on staff could, but as we try to steer into this and try to understand what this potentially is going to cost us. If I'm not mistaken, about 4 or 5 years ago, the region entered a new contract with the current provider that we have. I think it was like about a 7-year contract,
Yeah.
which must be almost at that point of no return. We must be getting very close to the end here. And so I'm wondering, when this was done, it was done, my understanding, the 35 million or whatever it was to maintain the service that we started with, which was the bi-weekly, and everybody was getting picked up. If there's now some savings there as a result of some of this change, which there should be based on the original agreement, I know costs have gone up and there's probably other things within that contract, but I think it'd be worth exploring at the regional side, because if there is some savings, what that proration would be for West Lincoln, and perhaps some of those funds could be used just offset any costs that we have to endure, and other municipalities within the 12 have to endure, because again, that I feel like it was around 32 or 35 million, whatever that number was, would have included the whole 7 years. And since we're not at that point, and now we're seeing less service, as mandated by the province, and everyone's, we have no choice. They tell us what to do. We just got to get creative how it's done. And so I'm kind of hoping that if there's some cost savings there, maybe that then helps us down the road. And I do agree with Councillor Chibet. I think maybe there should be an opportunity for staff to come back and review what that could look like, much like what you're saying, Madam Mayor, and figure out how we can deal with that, because it's one of those things. It's one thing to kind of get us through year one, but we got to come up with a plan that's going to make it useful and successful, because just the other week I was just talking about how we have people coming to our community to throw garbage, and I think it's just going to be a matter of they're putting it in a garbage bag, and we're going to see more junk in our community that isn't even from our community. Not that we want to see junk thrown in people's fields, but it's only going to grow, and as people get more and more desperate, or more and more aggressive with how they have to get rid of it, or creative, I should say, not aggressive, creative, I worry that that's going to come there. And I know right now it seems to be businesses and, we have community centers, churches, you name it, and, the concerns of, I'm assuming part of this, the region's going to do their due diligence and recognize the zoning, which is that information is going to be passed on to the vendor themselves. But, sometimes even on my street, they go zipping by. I don't know if they're just early in the morning or whatever, and I have to call, and the region comes out and picks it up. So again, I agree with the councillor. I think there's going to be a bit of a slow burn in terms of as we adjust and adapt to this, but I really hope that there's some room in the savings of that contract, and maybe you can inquire at the region yourself in some capacity of what, if any, if there's a savings.
I would guess if there's any savings, that's already been accommodated in the regional budget that isn't quite
Already
finished, but is
absorbed.
very close to being finished, so,
Yeah.
yeah, we can certainly look into that.
Yeah, I was just hoping
but
if
my
there was-
guess is that we're far enough into that budget
It's
that.
probably already
yeah,
naturally
it's
absorbed
probably-
into some. I was just hoping if there's if it was much how our reserves work, or if it's allocated for sidewalks, that it stays in the sidewalk reserve. I was hoping if it's a garbage reserve that okay, it's there to.
Yeah. But remember then, that's a different envelope at the region, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit different scenario, but.
Well, and again,
For sure.
Madam Mayor, I think the other thing with the recycling thing is I think people are going to see, I get businesses, if you have a business downtown, you're probably going to just take your recycling to your home, and you're going to have an influx of recycling in your home if you're able to get home pickup. I feel like the parts of our community that get mistreated, I guess, would be our rural residents, or those urban, rural businesses and farms and churches that are going to bear the brunt of it, because I think if you're in the urban area, you're going to just bring your stuff home with you, and it's going to get picked up, and there's no limit, right? Am I understanding that correctly? The limits haven't changed on the residents. Yeah, it's the same. So if you would come home, and now it's okay, well, if I own a hair salon, or I own a sporting store, and I just going to take my garbage home, well, normally I have 2 bags of or 2 bins of recycling that goes out over 2 weeks or whatever. Now I'm going to bring in 15 different buckets, and they're still going to pick it all up. I don't know. This is where they're not really. I don't think this is too well thought out, but.
Well, it's one more thing that is actually a provincial download, right?
Yeah.
So,
Okay, thank you.
for sure. Do you want anything further that anybody wanted to weigh in on that?
Madam Mayor, through you to our director, just for the record, when a business, or because I do know some larger farmers who have dairy barns, et cetera, have already been receiving their letters. So it's okay, they're going to get a bin, they're going to deal with it. Where did they take it?
Okay, so the region did share some questions and answers for us. So how does a farm property currently, okay, so if your farm has a residential dwelling, the residential portion will continue to receive recycling.
So they'll take the beer cans, but maybe not the bottles that had the bacterial ammonia for the
And
wash
the-
system.
yeah, and then the business farm operation portion will be treated as a non-eligible source.
That ought to be a good thing for watching them sort the stuff at my
So,
curb.
I mean, the answers from the province are non-answers. The answers in a municipality are just as difficult, because, you know, if you think about the number of public staff, you know, public works staff people that we have, and who would be doing that, and the amount of driving around the municipality to pick up after an event, and after a church service, and after, all the way through, it's almost like we would need another division.
An
And then we
army.
have to really look at whether that is really the direction that the municipality should be going or not, because then we are taking on a responsibility that actually belongs to the province. And that's happened, you know, in various areas. It's happened in public works. It's happened in water, wastewater. It's just another area of downloading.
But Madam Mayor, the whole idea, the concept before was that if it was given to the people who were the manufacturers or the retailers, it was that then packaging would reduce, because if they had to pay for it, we would have less recyclable packaging, so that they wouldn't have to pay as much. So obviously that wasn't working, or there was a squeak somewhere in that
And it
wheel.
still is not
It's still
working,
not
right.
there, but I do have a question, and I'm not trying to badger the director, but, so we have a great, I'm going to say we have a compliant farmer who has jugs that cleaning solvent comes in for washing the pipelines and the milk cooler, et cetera, et cetera. So he wants to they want to comply. Where do they take it?
Well, through the mayor to Councillor
Sure.
Chichuk, according to the correspondence from the region, they would have provided all these non-eligible sources, a list of contractors that could pick up their material for them. That's one option. And I believe another option is that they could just manage it themselves and bring it to one of the 5 depots throughout the region. And the closest depot in our area would be the landfill at
12.
At 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, sorry, to answer Councillor Trombetta's question, kind of similar to what Councillor Chichuk asked. Multi
right place, but now I doubt that we're going to have trucks going up and down the rural areas to pick up the 2 jugs that are now there. It just is it's cost prohibitive. So there's a lot of things I can think of that will be a problem, and farmers, rural residents, shall I say, who get mislabeled as a non-residential are going to be crying out to us, I'm sure. And because I can see our driveway, which services our barn and the house, perhaps getting I don't know what'll happen. But anyway, all good. Thank you.
It is extremely problematic, for sure. Councillor Rayner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can see a lot of the solutions for a lot of people would be just take it down the dark country roads and throw it in the ditch.
That's essentially what Councillor Riley was saying, too,
And that's been a common thing in the past, especially when the region increases the landfill prices. It usually ends up with an increase of garbage in the ditches. So that's one thing, but The logic behind it, to me, has not been properly thought out before they implemented this. And this is just another example of things like we had in the past. We had this with the marijuana grow-up operations, where the fans are supposed to prevent the smell from leaving the building, and if there's a problem, you called the government, and they would go in there and shut it down so you didn't have to smell it when you drove by, and you know what happened there. There was no government, there was no phone call, there was no follow-up. I'm just concerned that this is just another example of coming up with an asinine idea without a forethought behind it, and unfortunately, all the people are the fallout from all this, and we're gonna end up with a lot of problems because people we entrusted, and we talked about earlier about government responsibility, about, crime and all the rest of this stuff. That's why we elected this people, is to think for us. They've come up with some asinine idea right now that wasn't thought out properly, and unfortunately, we're gonna bear the responsibility of this. And it's just another example of we're paying a lot of wages to a lot of government employees that really shouldn't even be in the job. But here we go. Let's find out January.
Thank you. Anything further from anyone? Okay. Go ahead. Do you want? Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Clerk. You read it.
So through the mayor, to the rest of council, this is what I've heard from the conversation. That administration report back to council at the next operations committee meeting in regards to potential service delivery models and information to assist the West Lincoln community with recycling based on new provincial mandated recycling regulations. I specifically noted West Lincoln community as it's a more broadly felt regulation. It covers municipal buildings, covers nonprofit organization, it covers farm dwellings. So just to kind of capture everything, I feel like that was probably the best wording. But if that is acceptable, I believe Councillor Trombetta is moving that.
No, my thing was just right now was the community centers. You have farm dwellings in there as well?
No, I just have the West Lincoln community.
So Councillor Trombetta, do you think that it should just be looking after our own interests as opposed to?
At the moment, we should be worried about our own interests, like, what are we doing as the community? I'd like to it can stay, we can find out, but I think we need to look at the community center first is what my concerns are, because I got 2 calls from, like I said, one from Abington, one from Fulton. What are happening at those centers?
So one of the questions could be, and we'll just pause that for a moment, it could be that the contracts that the community centers.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So it may have to end up being, one of the options should probably be within the new contracts that the community centers have with their renters, is that they remove, their recycling. So maybe all options may.
Well, I
need to be
think,
part of.
I think what I heard from Councillor Trombetta, and maybe some clarity, is what is the township going to do with our recycling that within our own facilities? So that would be Town Hall, the West Lincoln Community Center, the 2 fire halls, the 3 community centers that we own, Wellandport, Kaser Center, and Silverdale, and our libraries. And what I heard
So Fulton would be the exception to that.
Yeah,
because we don't
Fulton
own,
is.
Well, Fulton, I like it because it's still, I know we don't own it, but it's sort of.
but we don't own it. That's I think.
Yeah, so that's
This
where I think.
resolution would cover more.
Fulton's smaller than a house. I think we can encompass Fulton Community Center in this. I don't see why we can't. I'd like to see that.
So,
What other ones?
Wellandport.
That's, I wanted Wellington, that's encompassed in this, Wellington.
Okay, just hold on.
Abington, Fulton, these are community centers.
so if I may, Madam
Go
Mayor,
ahead, Councillor Ray.
through you to maybe our clerk, and even to Councillor Trombetta, I think if we're in a fact-finding mission right now, let's fact-find everything. And then we can decide in January what we actually deliver on. I think it's important to include, much what the mayor was saying before, if we want to kind of keep this broad so we can see the whole picture, and then we get the financials and we can kind of go from there, I think would be the best way about it. I wouldn't want to alienate anyone just yet. I think that the point should be, let's see what it all looks like, if that's possible.
If his motion encompasses all that, then I have no problem.
Yeah.
We'll keep it that way.
Okay, so that's I think why the clerk put in the West Lincoln community
Fine.
broadly, and that way we eliminate if we have to.
Thank you. I'll second it at the time, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry. So are we talking about all non-eligible sources within our community? Is that what,
That's my intention as of right now.
so
That's how the resolution's written.
churches and businesses? Because Niagara Region has done that cost analysis for the entire region.
Yeah.
So I could ask them to see what the breakdown is, just to provide,
And that can be included to the clerk's report
Yeah.
there, that's gonna come in January?
if they have that breakdown. I
Okay.
know they have a cost of what it would be if they were to pick up that service for all these non-eligible sources, but that's for, excuse me, all of Niagara, which is around 4,700 customers. I don't know if they have the breakdown for West Lincoln alone.
That would be a really good starting place, though.
Yeah, I will ask
rather than
that to
doing
see
a
if they
lot
have
of-
This
that
is just
breakdown.
fact-finding now, so we
Yeah.
just wanna have all cards on the table so we know what hand to play.
And
Understood,
it was,
but
it was multiple millions to cover that
This might have to go
4,000.
back a couple times, it's not gonna be a one and done thing, so.
No.
you know,
Yeah.
through Madam Mayor, like,
I think it's very easy for us to determine what we will be doing with our, or at least fact-finding what the cost would be or what our solution is for our own facilities. And I will dig into what the region has for the rest of the non-eligible sources throughout our community.
Let's get this motion to staff, and then, you know, I'm quite sure once we get this, at least if this gets approved this evening, Madam Mayor, then we'll move from this.
Then we have something to work with.
Correct.
Yeah, go ahead. I think everybody's done. Okay, so the vote will be in front of you. Okay, and that carries. So that, Director DiPaolo, that gives you some work to do with your, with your people. But I think reaching out to get the work that's already been done by the region is probably going to simplify that role, but thank you. Okay, so 15.2 is remarks from other members of council. So Councillor Maychuk, we're going to start with you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to acknowledge Councillor Riley. Last week, together with him, we gathered some food items and unwrapped gifts and also made a cash donation to the West Lincoln Community Care Center. So I just encourage others that might be able to afford to do similar to do so at this time of need over the Christmas period. Thank you.
Councillor Broderick.
Just wishing the residents of West Lincoln, my warmest my warmest wishes to everybody during the holiday season. And I know that most people will be able to enjoy perhaps a little bit of rest, relaxation, perhaps some reflection, and some little bit of gratitude as we think about the things that we are so fortunate to have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to all members of council, staff, people that come to the gallery. WeeStream, who's here every week as well. So, Merry Christmas to everybody and Happy New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rayner.
Yes, the same thing, Mayor. I wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all staff and councilors and all the taxpayers out there and those in Kevin's cyberspace.
Councillor Chichak.
I guess in keeping with those of the thoughts of my colleagues, that is the most predominant thing that we are all talking about with this festive season upon us, where some who gather for Hanukkah and others for various other types of celebration, as well as the traditional Christmas spirit. Let's hope that everyone here in the council chamber, the staff, and people who are here, as well as those in cyberspace, have a chance to enjoy families and stay close and understand the love and affection that's usually brought forward in this time of year, and that it bear with us well into 2026.
All right, well, sound like a broken record here, but ditto.
That's what happens when you get to
I
the
know,
end. Just think what I'm thinking right now.
There you go. Yeah, I wish everybody a safe, happy holiday. We can look forward to working with you all in 2026. We got lots of work ahead of us, and I wish you all the best. I didn't get a chance to mention last week, so I mentioned this week. Shout out to the parade committee, the staff for the organization and execution of the parade, and all the events we have in our community, but speaking specifically to the parade, tremendous feedback from the community. They're very impressed. I think we've really raised the bar and set the standard as far as parades and even the live feed and from WeeStream and those involved. I think Lyle Killens was one of the guest hosts on it, as well as another, and they did a really great job. I think some of the comments I was reading online to people who have talked to in the public are very pleased, and it's really helped our image and reputation that we're delivering top-notch service across the board, and I think we're leading in the region in some aspects too. And I'll repay the shout out to Councillor Maychuk as well. He came to me the week before with this idea about serving the community in a fun way and by bringing some donations forward, and so we pooled some resources to make that happen, and I think it's worth noting, I don't think he always gets the credit where credit is due. He's also volunteering at Foodland the other day for a few hours, and he's always trying to find creative ways to give back. So I'd like to thank my co-councillor and my ward here for being a real leader and an inspiring individual, and keep it up. Honestly, you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to go, Mr. Clerk, anything you want to say tonight? No, you're shaking your head. Mr. CAO, anything you want to say tonight? Merry Christmas. Okay, so I'm going to not say ditto to everything else, but I'm going to actually remind people that while you are celebrating with your family and friends, to also keep in mind the fact that it's not a happy time for everyone. So be mindful of the people you come across who perhaps don't seem quite so jovial. It's a sad time for some people as well, for various reasons. So I think that we're pretty good at being mindful of others, all of us, and just keep that in mind as well.
I can add just one more thing, Madam Mayor. Also, December 26th is blood services are back in town, and so I have my time spot already picked, and I hope others can do so as well. They said when I was talking to them before that they expect it to be hopefully a success, but we need people to roll up the sleeves if they can, and much to what you're saying there. Yeah, you're right. We always got to be mindful. It's easy sometimes to get caught up in the holidays and not realize there's other people who are.
But with John sitting there, I'm glad that you remember the blood donor clinic, because I did not. And we don't usually have it on Boxing Day. So it's just for those of you who traditionally give blood or are thinking about giving blood, it is certainly important at this time of year. So one last piece of news, a little bit of good news. And Albert, I think that you didn't share it and I didn't share it. But half of the regional budget is done. And of the half that's done, we want you to know, members of council, some of you already have been informed and some of you have not, that Albert and I, with the help of our CAO, we were able to, first of all, get a meeting with regional staff about the Wellandport project that started in 2016 and has gone amiss, has been right off the rails in terms of what's going on. But we were able, with the help of our former Commissioner of Public Works, Terry Ricketts, get a resolution that was acceptable to staff, and we brought it forward to Regional Council a couple of weeks ago. And then we just watched through the next 3 or 4 budget meetings, hoping and praying that it wouldn't be cut since it had been well supported. So in 26, the residents of Wellandport will get to see more of the groundwork work being done. By the end of 26, they should actually see the road work being done. And into 27, they should see the sidewalks and the part that our municipality are obligated to do. So after a long, long wait, and by the time they see it, it will be 4 terms of council. For those people to see what was promised to them by the region before I ever ran in a by-election. So it's a good news story for our residents throughout West Lincoln, I think, but in particular, of course, the Wellandport people. Councillor Chichok.
Well, Madam Mayor, just so that we don't leave this meeting, it just crossed my mind that there's a great opportunity for celebration for West Lincoln and the town, the hamlet of Wellandport. And we could probably celebrate that over Oli Bowling and coffee at the.
The levy.
I just thought I'd put that on the table and you can spiel it out there because it's not. And January 3rd, I just realized it's going to happen before we get back together again. So on January 3rd, the 3rd annual levy for council and the mayor is occurring, and I'll leave the rest to you.
Okay, so from 2 to 4, and public skating is free for members of the public who want to come out and skate. For those who don't skate any longer and they just want to come and wish their neighbors and friends a happy New Year, we will be celebrating with a New Year's levy. That's right. So Oli Bolin is on. Greek pastries are a little harder to find this year because of the pistachio recall, but I'm working on getting Greek pastries. And of course, we have Timbits hot chocolate and coffee. So spread the word. When you start to see it more and more on social media, please repost so that we can get it out to the public as much as possible.
And Madam Mayor, might I say, thank you to you, because there's no impact to the tax rate for those events. Because somehow magically we find the money elsewhere, so that there's no impact to the regions or the local taxpayer.
Thank you. There is not, true. I know of no new items of business this evening, and so that takes us to 17, which is confidential. And Councillor Trombetta, you have the resolution?
Yes, Madam Mayor, move by myself the next portion of this meeting to be closed to the public to consider the following pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act. Manager Legislative Services Clerk Justin Palov, citizen appointments on boards and committees. Applicable closed session, personal matters by an identifiable individual, including municipal or local boards of employment, human resources advisor Janine Buffo, information report HR 01-2025. Applicable closed session, personal matters by an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. And then Councillor Riley has a verbal update, a local board financial update for clarification. And that applicable closed section exemption, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
Thank you. You had a lot to do tonight.
It's okay.
Someone to second that, please. Councillor Riley. Okay, so vote to go then into confidential, and we'll see. Everybody in? Okay, so that closes, and before everyone else leaves, we want to do Okay, well, welcome back, everyone. We're back in open session, and I'm going to go to the clerk for disclosure of confidential matters.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, and to the rest of council. Council approved the following motion in regards to confidential item 17.1. One, that the following persons be and are hereby appointed to serve on the following committee until their successor is appointed. One, Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, Ali Hanstra, and that a bylaw be presented at the December 15, 2025 council meeting to amend bylaw 2023-03, being the appointment bylaw for boards and committees, specifically Schedule C, Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee. Council also received a confidential item 17.2 and 17.3 for information purposes.
Thank you. So that takes us then to bylaws, and Councillor Maychak, you once again have bylaws this evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Excuse me, because I still have a tail end of a cold, so I'll try to get through this. Moved by myself that leave be granted to introduce bylaws 2025-71-72, -73, -74, -75, -76, and the same shall be considered to have been read a first, second, and third time with one reading and are thereby adopted, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and affix the corporate seal thereto. Any rule of this council to the contrary notwithstanding.
You don't have to read all the bylaws.
I don't?
You don't.
Okay.
But what you should have done, Councillor, and I only say this because I already had to mention it to a couple other councillors.
Read them
You
all
have-
in full.
No, that 2025-71, 2025 dash, but because you have such a terrible cold, we're going to forgive that this evening.
Thank you.
But in the future, you need to read.
I will get it
the
right
rest
next
of them.
time. My apologies.
And someone to second those, Councillor Riley. Everybody has heard the same message, so you're not alone. But in any case, the bylaws have been read and duly seconded, and so we'll look to the vote.
You can go by hand, I guess.
Okay. Okay. So if your machine is still open, you can vote, and if it's not, please raise your hand regarding the bylaws. Okay.
It's the least I can do. Oh,
Okay. And the bylaw resolution carries, and I will declare this meeting adjourned at the hour of 8:13.